Operation Odessa and Elran. We start off with one that might not have had a huge impact, but an impact nonetheless. During Operation Odessa, the Zeon defenses planned to rely heavily on intel from the treacherous Federation General Elran. Unfortunately, their plans were foiled when his true allegiance was discovered by Amuro. And other than intel, M'Quve also counted on him to slow down the Federation's advance on Odessa. All this led to the Zeon forces stationed there being overwhelmed by the much more numerous Federation forces. Had General Elran not been found out, the Battle of Odessa could have turned out very differently, with the defenders knowing the Federation's every move. Ramba Ral not getting his DOMs. During Ramba Ral's pursuit of the White Base, Kycilia Zabi instructed M'Quve to supply Ramba Ral with the brand new MS-09 DOM. At the time, the newest and most powerful Zeon mobile suit on land. Unfortunately for Ramba Ral though, M'Quve claimed that the DOMs had been lost during transportation because he was afraid that his clandestine mining operation at Odessa would come to light then. So instead, Ramba Ral got nothing. And the Gihren's Greed video game series even goes as far as to claim that had Ramba Ral received his DOMs, he not only would have been able to take out the Gundam, but the entire White Base. And when considering the power difference between the DOM and the Goof, combined with Ramba Ral's performance with the Goof, this is absolutely no groundless conjecture. Then, with the destruction of the pivotal White Base and the survival of one of Zeon's most experienced pilots, the war could have very well ended very differently. Over-reliance on experimental mobile suits. While Zeon is often hailed for its powerful experimental mobile suits, this is also what caused their supply lines to be severely strained. Due to the enormous differences between Zeon's various machines, it simply wasn't able to produce and sustain the mobile suits that the front lines demanded. At the end of the war, this resulted in the 5-year-old and obsolete MS-05B Zaku 1 once again seeing frontline duty along the state-of-the-art MS-14 Gelgoog. Another result of rushing out experimental mobile suits to the battlefield was that they were more prone to failure since there hadn't been any time to correct any possible problems, as evidenced with the MS-10 Zeta. This would then only worsen the already bad state of Zeon's production capabilities, as valuable resources were being used in all the wrong places. It wasn't until very late into the war that Zeon realized the full extent of this problem and launched the United Maintenance Plan, an attempt to use standardized parts for their main frontline machines. But by this time, it was already too late. Kycilia Zabi. While there's no denying that Kycilia Zabi contributed a lot to the Zeon war effort, she also made some unfortunate missteps. The first one was reintegrating Char Aznable into the Zeon military while being fully aware of its real identity. Char then led a rushed and undermanned assault on the Federation headquarters, Jaburo, resulting in a massive loss for Zeon. At the end of the war then, Kycilia would really regret this decision as she was killed by him.
Shock.
The second misstep was assassinating Gihren at the final battle of Abawaku. Leaving aside whether or not this was justified, this was the final drop in the bucket that caused Zeon to topple over. Kycilia had expected that she would be able to take full control of the remaining forces, but instead, many of the Gihren loyalists, like Aguil Delas, decided to withdraw from the battle. And when she herself was assassinated only a little while later, the few remaining troops quickly surrendered, ending the war for Zeon. And while none of these events single-handedly caused the defeat of Zeon, together they did culminate into the eventual defeat of the Principality. But there is one event that can be said is solely responsible for losing Zeon the war: letting General Revil escape. The goal of Operation British was simple: gas an entire colony, drop it onto Earth to show the might of Zeon, and force the Federation to accept their demands. And it almost worked. The Federation was powerless to stop them, the Earth was ravaged, and one of their best generals, General Revil, was captured. They were so close. The Federation was on the verge of surrendering, but in the 11th hour, Federation agents and Zeon traders were able to free General Revil, who had seen the true face of the Zeon forces. Rather than the juggernaut they claimed to be, he saw an exhausted army reeling from the Battle of Loon, and which was full of youngsters. He was able to give his now famous Zeon is exhausted speech in a nick of time, resulting in the Federation rejecting Zeon's demands and continuing the war. In the origin retelling, these events were given a different spin, but the end result would still be the same. Despite gaining an overwhelming tactical victory at the Battle of Loon, it did cost them a very heavy price: the loss of many experienced pilots, something that would haunt Zeon for the rest of the war, especially near the end, when they were forced to put badly trained teenagers into their state-of-the-art mobile suit, the MS-14 Gelgook, a machine that was intended to turn the tide of the war, but instead, when confronted with the now seasoned Federation mobile suit pilots, the Gelgook's performance would be much lower than expected.
しかし、ゲルググドムの動きが目立たないのはどういうわけだ、トワニング。
はあ、学徒動員のパイロットが多いようですから。
学生か。
しかし、要請は万全でありました。
話は信じるが戦果だけが問題なのでな。
And to wrap up this video, one point that didn't get its own specific section was the infighting in the Zabi family, something that was the most pronounced between Gihren and Kycilia and would come into play at numerous important times, as we've seen throughout this video. And those were the 5 main reasons Zeon lost the war, excluding of course not mass producing the Big Zam. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more similar content. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.